So you're in the late cycle camp, Bob. It sounds like you and Mike are in agreement on that. I mean,
But
Mike,
how could you not be in the late cycle? Not to cut you, but how could you not be in? How could you possibly argue that this is an early cycle environment, right? Like unemployment is at secular lows, right? Like the Fed has tightened 500 basis points. We've engaged in a QT program, right? Like the idea that we're in an early cycle environment is only supported by a total ignorance and rejection of the basic macroeconomic facts that are at play.
So, Bob, I actually, on the margin, I agree with you, both of you. But it's always possible, for the sake of argument, fiscal stimulus. You'll be familiar with these arguments, so you can just kind of whack them. But fiscal stimulus now is so high that previous economic cycles doesn't matter. The U.S. consumer and businesses are much more less sensitive to interest rate hikes. As you point out on Twitter often, Bob, we are in a secularly tight labor market. So the peak unemployment rate in this cycle may be lower. Those are arguments.
Sure, and I think in particular, we saw a situation where there was weakening economic conditions, particularly in the second half of last year. And I think Mike was at the forefront of talking about how the economy was decelerating meaningfully at that time. And what we saw was essentially a set of mini fiscal stimuluses that none of which on their own were all that big a deal, but you add them all up and actually we created an impulse, particularly in January, February, March, that then sort of flowed through to the rest of the economy. But those things like the resetting of the tax brackets, some of the IRA,
Social Security adjustment.
Yep, the Social Security adjustment, those three things, those are behind us, not ahead of us. We're not going to have a Social Security adjustment that looks anywhere near as positive as we saw in the start of 2023. We're not going to see the tax bracket resetting be anywhere near as beneficial to households in terms of getting the intra-year tax cut in 2024. We're not going to see the IRA is behind us. The main stimulus effective IRA is behind us rather than ahead of us. And so all of those things that created the sort of we were on this weakening trajectory. We had a short-term pop in the fiscal. That created a bit of an extension of the cycle, even, to be honest, relative to even what I thought was going to occur in terms of the duration of the expansion. That stuff's behind us, not ahead of us. And that's really and at the same time, we've also had, even though it's been less impactful than typical, we've had an expansion. We've had a rise in interest rates on the long end, on the short end. All of those, global growth is weakening. Like all of the things that had been supports in early 2023, people are projecting will occur in 2024. And there's no solid evidence that will repeat in early 2024 the way it did in early 2023.